Welcome to this edition of R&B Movie Reviews. I'm Rob.
I'm Brendan.
And today we're going to take a look at Guy Ritchie's latest film, Rocknrolla. And it's a very complicated plot with a lot of different characters. I don't know how well we can explain the plot to people that have no idea what it's about.
Well, in a nutshell, the plot is pretty much about a crooked land deal by some Russian gangsters, and they sort of get involved with the British crime syndicate, and you sort of see all their interactions, and there's a subplot of a very important painting to a Russian gangster that eventually gets missing, and the painting exchanges hands many times, and eventually ends up in the hands of a presumed dead rock star. It's a very complicated movie.
Yeah, it's complicated.
I think if you walk out of it and you say, well, what do you think it was about? Everyone's going to have different ideas of the plot because there's so many plot lines in this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, one thing that I really didn't get into is, obviously this is the first Guy Ritchie movie I've seen. I'm sure there's people watching this thinking, dude, that's what he does, but I wasn't a big fan of the MTV style editing where it's like quick, and it kind of bugged me at first, but then after a while I realized that even though I couldn't quite understand what was going on because I thought the editing moving too fast, as well as the complexity of the plot, it did keep my attention very much, but it took me a while to get used to the editing of this movie. It definitely made the viewing more
interesting. He really uses the editing to really sort of propel his story, and it really gives the movie a quick pacing. The editing never really took me out of the movie. I definitely didn't notice it the way you did. I sort of expected Guy Ritchie's style to be like that. I very much enjoyed the way the movie was paced, and the look of the movie was great. I thought the cinematography looked very clean as opposed to a very gritty movie. It looks very polished.
Yeah, one thing I liked about it was that how it seemed like I was there. Like, it felt realistic. Like, this movie is set in London. It felt, like the clubs. I felt like I was actually in the clubs where you can actually see cigarette smoke and bands playing, and it's like you're actually there. And that's one thing I liked about this movie. One thing that I did like about this movie was the actors in this movie were very good. Tom Wilkinson as Lenny Cole, Jared Butler, Mark Strong, all these great performances. And one performance that really surprised me was Ludacris, who's one of the American managers of what is supposed to be a deceased rock singer, Johnny Quitt. He was actually pretty good in this movie, and I'm not really a fan of his music or his other acting jobs he's done.
Tom Wilkinson's character, I was either laughing at him or I was scared of him.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he could be very sinister, and then his character could also be very goofy, which I wasn't sure if that was on purpose or not, because there's one particular scene where his character falls out of a chair, and it's very funny, and there's another scene where, he's going to beat his own child, and it's a little dark and disturbing. Halfway through the movie, they introduced the Johnny Quitt character, and he almost completely overpowers the second half of the movie. I thought it was a very interesting character. The presumed dead rock star who disappeared just to sort of help his record sales. Mm-hmm. And I thought he was a very interesting character because he's this sort of junky, low-life, rich rock star, and he's pretty intelligent for being, like a crackhead and stuff, And casting is perfect. I mean, there was no one in that movie who I felt was out of place, and everyone in the movie, I couldn't wait until their characters came back on screen, particularly, the Wild Bunch, who gets hired by Thaddeus Newton's character, who plays an accountant who's basically ripping everyone off. Mm-hmm. And, sort of all the Wild Bunch's scenes, I was always looking forward to the next time I would see them on camera.
Yeah.
Because each scene they had, they'd always be very funny. They always had very clever dialogue, very funny, and more of a darker sense of humor. Yeah,
the humor is not over the top. It's very subtle and very deadpan, which isn't a bad thing. I thought it really helped because there's two comedy scenes that pop into my mind. One is when Archie, played by Mark Strong, is demonstrating how to properly slap someone. That was funny, and an even better sequence is when Jared Butler and his sidekick are trying to are dressed up as police officers, and they're trying to rob a car, and they forget to take the keys from the people they're hijacking the car from, and they're having problems with it, and the two guys are standing outside the car trying to tell them how to get the car working and everything. It was a wonderful sequence. It really was. It wasn't over the top.
The comedy was great in the movie, and I think it plays off perfectly, particularly in a big action sequence that's actually told in flashback, which I thought was interesting. They showed the biggest action sequence in flashback, which was when the Wild Bunch go to steal money, and the guys holding the money are some Russian war criminals, and it plays off very comically, and it's very, I I thought it was one of the better shot sequences in the movie.
I don't know. I think what you said is about this movie is right. It is very complex, and some people are probably wondering whether they should go out and pay to see it in the movie theaters and wait till it comes out on DVD. I usually say that if it's playing in theaters, it might be a good idea to check it out, but I recommend just waiting until it comes out on DVD. That way, if you got a lot of time on your hands, you can watch it over and over again. You'll be able to pick up more stuff that you might have missed, because it does move very fast and it is a complicated plot, even though the acting and the editing does kind of carry the movie through. So I'd say maybe wait till it gets out on DVD.
Well, I think because it's a limited release and I don't think it's going to be in theaters too long, I say if you do have a chance to see it in theaters, go ahead and see it in theaters, because I thought this was a very entertaining movie. It's much more entertaining than I think more recent movies that have come out. I mean, this movie was very fast-paced, and also it's interesting to see a movie where it's not necessarily the plot that's guiding you through it, it's the characters, and I thought the characters were the best part of it, and the acting was great in this. I mean, I can't wait to see more movies with these people, or at least to see a Rocknrolla sequel.
Definitely.
As well as the group Jared Butler's character as part of the Wild Bunch. They were very interesting. I don't think they necessarily earned their title, the Wild Bunch, because they sort of get overpowered a few times, and it's very comical to see all the situations they're in and how their whole operation runs. And the most entertaining part of seeing the Wild Bunch was a subplot with one of the characters' sexual orientation, which I thought was hilarious, and that completely added a whole different layer. I didn't think that would be in a Guy Ritchie crime movie.
Yeah, you didn't see that coming. You didn't see that coming at all, and that kind of surprised me too. But I thought the character in the situation where he comes out was pretty funny. And one thing interesting, did you mention that in some of Guy Ritchie films, there's always an object that seems to be involved in his movies?
Yeah, in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, it was really, there seems to be an object in Guy Ritchie movies that seems to keep changing hands of all the main characters. In Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, it was 2 antique shotguns. In Snatch, it was a big diamond. In this one, it's an antique painting. And it's this Russian gangster's lucky painting. It just keeps changing hands throughout the entire movie. And it sort of reminded me of Pulp Fiction, because like in Pulp Fiction, you never see what's in Marcellus Wallace's briefcase. You never see the painting. You never see what's painted on it. You always see it from the back of the angle of it.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was an interesting part of the mystery of it, is you never see it because all the characters are very amazed by the painting, and yet we, the audience, have no idea what it's a painting of.
Exactly. And it gives you a chance to, as an audience member, to use your imagination about what this great painting is all about. So
I like that, but as soon as I kept noticing they weren't showing us the painting, it brought to mind Pulp Fiction, as well as the dance scene between Jared Butler's and Thaddeus Newton's character, which I thought they should have expanded on that dance scene because it was one of the funnier moments, I think, with their characters. But it immediately brought to mind Pulp Fiction for me. Soundtrack, I mean, Guy Ritchie's very good at picking out soundtracks. You know, he's sort of like Quentin Tarantino with his movie soundtracks. He just picks the perfect music in it. And it was just great. And also, another testament to this movie is even its opening credit sequence was very entertaining. I thought that was very interesting with how they sort of had the character mock-ups like that.
yeah.
It's definitely worth checking out if you enjoy crime movies, and definitely movies that have a subtle sense of humor. In this movie, its sense of humor is very great. The acting is top-notch. I mean, it's just a fantastic ensemble cast. I mean, some of these actors are interested in seeing what else they're going to do, particularly Mark Strong, who played Archie, the narrator of the movie, who was Tom Wilkinson's assistant. I mean, there's so many characters that jumped out to me. I was just like very interested in them. And I really hope they do a sequel. I just hope they get the money to do it, because this movie is very interesting. I'd be willing to see through another movie with these characters.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, that takes care of R&B's review of Rocknrolla, so we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.